There will come a moment so silent, so raw, when life lays your soul bare. No applause, no warning, no soft landings, just the ruins. But darling, those ruins are not your end. They are your beginning. You are not broken, though it may feel like it. You are not broken, even when everything around you tells you otherwise. The pain, the silence, the disappointment, they are loud. They echo in your chest and shake the foundation of everything you once believed about yourself. But listen not to the noise of defeat, but to the quiet insistence within your soul. You are not broken, you are becoming. Life does not hand out roadmaps. It does not explain why some things fall apart so fast while others linger long past their purpose. You try, you give, you stretch, and sometimes you shatter. But a shattering is not a signal that you are defective. It is often the sacred beginning of something new, something deeper, something that was waiting on the other side of your exhaustion, your surrender, your tears. Becoming doesn't always look graceful. It can be messy, uneven, and filled with moments where you don't recognize yourself. You cry over people who never cried over you. You forgive people who never apologized. You ache in places that feel like they will never heal. But healing is not a one-day event. It's 1,000 little moments where you choose to breathe, to stay, to trust, and to try again. You are becoming because you are still here, because you are still choosing. You could have turned cold, but you didn't. You could have shut down, but something in you stayed open. You could have become bitter, but you are fighting to stay soft. That is not weakness. That is becoming. There's this unspoken pressure to always be whole, to always be strong, to always wear the polished version of yourself like a mask. But the truth is, the most beautiful parts of you were never born from perfection. They came from the times you broke down and built again. The wisdom you now carry didn't come from winning. It came from wrestling with loss and still choosing hope. It came from being cracked open and finding a deeper truth inside the wreckage. People may walk away when they no longer understand the version of you that's in transition. Let them. Because becoming means you're evolving beyond what once held you. Growth often invites grief, not because you're failing, but because you're shedding illusions, shedding expectations, shedding the roles you once played just to feel loved or seen. And it's terrifying, this space in between who you were and who you're becoming. You may feel like a stranger to yourself. You may miss the comfort of your old patterns, even if they hurt you, but don't go back. Not this time. The becoming is happening right here, in the discomfort, in the silence, in the not yet. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need the approval of others to validate your journey. All you need is the willingness to keep going, to wake up again tomorrow and try again. Some days, trying again will mean brushing your teeth and drinking a glass of water. Other days, it will mean setting a boundary, telling the truth, or taking a risk you've been avoiding. All of it counts. All of it is becoming. Don't wait until you feel fully healed to honor yourself. Celebrate the version of you that is showing up in the middle of the mess. Speak gently to yourself. Remind yourself that this season is not punishment. It's preparation. You are being refined, not ruined. You are being unraveled so the deeper truth of who you are can rise to the surface. It's easy to believe you are unworthy when your life doesn't look like what you hoped it would. But worthiness is not dependent on perfection or achievement. Worthiness is your birthright. It is untouched by your past, your pain, or your mistakes. You don't have to earn it. You only have to remember it. And when the world tries to convince you that you are not enough, that you are too much, that you are hard to love or easy to leave, remember this: those are projections, not truth. You are allowed to outgrow their limitations. You are allowed to reclaim your power. You are allowed to walk away from anything that convinces you that your softness is a flaw. You are not broken. You are building something unshakable inside of yourself, the strength to survive, the courage to change, the tenderness to feel it all and still stand up. Every crack in you is a place where the light got in. Every scar is a page in your becoming story. So breathe, be patient, be kind. You are doing holy work. You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment. You are not damaged. You are designed for transformation. You are not lost. You are simply in the middle. And the middle is where becoming lives. There are moments in life when you will fall, not trip, not stumble, but collapse all at once, without warning, the kind of fall that takes your breath, your clarity, your hope. You wake up and wonder how the ground moved from beneath your feet, how the things you trusted disappeared, how you became a stranger to your own reflection. But hear this clearly, the fall is not the failure. The refusal to rise is. Falling is part of being alive. It's what happens when you care deeply, try boldly, love with your whole heart. You don't fall because you're weak. You fall because you dared to move. You took the risk. You stretched towards something uncertain. And when it didn't go as planned, it wasn't your failure. It was your fire meeting its next test. There is a sacred difference between falling and staying down, between being hurt and choosing to live from that hurt, between grief and giving up. Pain is honest. It demands attention. But what you do after the fall, that's where your power begins. Not in pretending it didn't happen, not in rushing to recover, but in sitting in the silence, in breathing through the ache, in whispering to yourself, I will not stay here. Sometimes rising doesn't look heroic. It doesn't look like a dramatic comeback. It looks like sitting on the edge of your bed after a sleepless night, putting one foot on the floor, then the other, and standing, shaky, uncertain, but standing. It looks like making the call, writing the truth, choosing the boundary, even when your voice trembles. It looks like hope, not as a loud anthem, but as a quiet decision to keep going. People might not see your rise. They might not understand your quiet strength. They might call you reckless for trying again. Let them. Because rising isn't for them. It's for you. For the version of you that still believes life can hold beauty. For the part of you that refuses to let the fall become your identity. You are allowed to rise messy, rise slow, rise broken, but rise. There is a world that teaches us to equate falling with shame as if losing something, someone, some part of ourselves makes us unworthy. But worth is not determined by stability. It's proven in resilience. You are not the job you lost, the relationship that ended, the dream that faded. You are who you choose to become after it all. And every time you decide to try again, you are rewriting your story. Falling invites honesty. It humbles the ego. It reminds you that control is an illusion, that life will ask you to let go before you're ready. But within that letting go is an invitation to grow deeper, to rebuild from what is true, not what is performative. The fall strips you. The rise rebuilds you. With stronger bones, with a quieter mind, with a fuller heart. You don't owe the world a perfect narrative. You don't have to turn every setback into a silver lining. You're allowed to fall apart, to cry, to retreat, to lose your footing. That is human. That is sacred. But when you're done breaking, remember this. The pieces you're left with are still yours, and you can gather them. You can begin again. You may not know how. That's okay. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Say the kind thing to yourself. Say the hard thing to someone else. Make the choice that scares you. Forgive who you were when you fell. You are not stuck. You are simply standing at the edge of a rise you haven't claimed yet. And when the voice inside says, "You can't do this," respond gently but firmly, "Watch me." Because you were never meant to live on the floor of your failure. You were born to rise. born to remember, born to rebuild. The fall may bruise you, it may rearrange you, but it cannot bury you unless you let it. There is a strength inside you that has not been silenced, a will to live, to love, to rebuild, still pulsing under the pain. Don't measure your worth by your wounds. Measure it by the fact that you are still here. The failure is not that you fell. The failure would be forgetting you had wings. So shake the dust from your skin. Stand, cry if you must. Breathe if that's all you can do. But know this, your rise is not only possible, it is promised to the one who refuses to give up. There are truths too deep for strong words, too honest for surface smiles. They are truths carved into the skin of your life, not to be hidden, but to be honored. Scars, they speak in ways that strength alone cannot. They tell the world, I have lived, I have lost, I have learned, and I am still here. We live in a world obsessed with resilience, with showing up, with never letting them see you sweat, and yet true resilience isn't loud. It doesn't wear armor. It doesn't always look like standing tall. Sometimes resilience is in the quiet exposure of a wound that's healed over. The mark that says, this hurt me, but it didn't end me. Scars are not shameful, they are sacred. They are not proof of weakness, but of endurance. You don't get a scar from avoiding pain, you get it from walking through it, from surviving it, from being cracked open and refusing to close yourself off again. People may celebrate your strength, admire your smile, praise your persistence, but they will never truly understand your story until they've seen your scars. Scars aren't just on the body, they live in the heart. They echo in the spaces where trust was once whole. They hum in the voice that trembles before it speaks the truth. They linger in the hands that now shake before reaching out again. They don't go away, but they don't need to, because scars are not about the pain itself. They are about the healing that followed. Sometimes people will try to convince you to hide your scars, to bury them beneath perfection, to pretend like you've always had it together, but perfection has never inspired anyone. Honesty has. When you show someone your scars, you're not asking for pity, you're offering connection. You're saying, me too, I've been through the dark, I've come back different, but I've come back. There is a kind of quiet power in scars that strength can't offer. Strength often walks into a room and demands to be noticed. Scars don't. Scars whisper to the ones who need it most. They say, I know what pain feels like, and I know what it means to walk with it and still move forward. Scars carry empathy in their silence. They don't preach, they prove. You don't earn scars from doing everything right. You earn them from surviving what tried to undo you. They are the echoes of nights you didn't think you'd get through, the shape of tears that dried without answers, the imprint of battles no one clapped for you in, but you fought them anyway, and you are still fighting. That matters. That counts. Let people think you're strong, but you know what's underneath that strength, the tremble, the ache, the scar that still stings when touched. You don't owe anyone a version of you that forgets what you've been through. You don't have to minimize your pain to make others comfortable. Your healing is not a performance, it's a process, and scars are the souvenirs of that sacred process. It takes more courage to live with scars than to pretend you've never been hurt, more bravery to show them than to bury them, because scars say, this is where I was broken, this is where I bled, this is where I nearly gave up, and this is where I came back to life. You are not just the things you've survived, you are the wisdom they left behind. You are the softness that came from breaking. You are the grace that came from forgiving. You are the fire that came from walking through hell and still choosing to love again. You are the scar and the story and the soul behind it. Scars remind us that pain was real, that we didn't imagine it, that something mattered enough to hurt. And when you show someone your scar, you are showing them a map, a way forward, a trail marked with pain, yes, but also with healing, with hope, with the proof that they too can make it through. Some will only ever see the surface of you, the polished, the composed, the seemingly unshaken, but the ones who matter will lean in close. They'll trace your scars, not with judgment, but with reverence. They'll say, "You've been through it, haven't you?" And you'll nod. And in that nod will be 1,000 unspoken truths, the kind that strength can't whisper, but scars can shout. So don't hide them. Don't rush to erase them. Let your scars be the pages of your autobiography. Let them speak for you when you're too tired to explain. Let them show others that yes, pain is real, but so is healing. And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear your scars saying the thing your strength never could. You made it, and you're still becoming. There will come a time when it all goes up in flames, not just the dreams you once nurtured, but the certainty, the comfort, the identity you wrapped around yourself like armor. Fire does not ask permission. It arrives with heat, with fury, with a hunger for anything that is no longer real. You stand there watching pieces of your life turn to ash and wonder how you'll ever rise again. But here is the truth that carries you forward. You rebuild not by mourning what the fire consumed, but by remembering what it didn't. Not everything burns, not your will, not your spirit, not the quiet knowing deep in your bones that you are more than what you lost. Fire clears, fire refines, fire demands truth. It strips away the excess, the lies you told yourself to feel safe, the roles you played to feel loved, the masks you wore to survive. What's left behind may look like ruin, but it's not. It's the foundation of something real, something honest, something enduring. You rebuild by returning to what cannot be taken. Your breath, your memory, your soul's wild refusal to give up. That whisper that says, "I still want to live." That flicker that says, "There's something in me worth saving." The world may only see the ashes, but you, only you, know what remained rooted beneath the blaze. The fire didn't burn your compassion. It didn't scorch your ability to feel deeply, to love fiercely, to start again. The fire may have taken the illusion, but it did not touch your essence. And if you're quiet long enough, if you listen beneath the noise of grief and loss, you'll hear the heartbeat of everything that survived. That's your blueprint. That's where you begin again. Sometimes rebuilding doesn't start with bricks. It starts with breath, with sitting in silence, hand on heart, remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Rebuilding is not about rushing. It's not about replacing what was lost with replicas of the past. It's about honoring the pain, letting it shape you, but not define you. You are not the wreckage. You are the hands that rise to clear it. Grief will visit often. It will remind you of what the fire took. Let it come, but don't let it convince you that all was lost. Look closer. Look underneath the soot. You'll find your resilience there, still pulsing. You'll find the voice that says, "Try again." You'll find the tenderness that the fire couldn't touch. Sometimes it takes losing everything to find the truth of yourself, not the polished version, not the version you curated for the world, but the raw, stripped, open soul that knows how to stand barefoot in the ashes and say, "This is not the end." You rebuild by honoring her, by protecting her, by trusting her to show you what matters most now. You don't need to know what the finished life will look like. You don't need to rush into plans or people just to fill the emptiness. Sit in the clearing. Let it speak to you. Let your intuition guide you toward what remains. The love you carry, the strength you forgot you had, the dream that won't die even after everything. The fire didn't burn those, and they are yours to build with. There will be moments when you question everything, when you ache for the comfort of what once was. But comfort is not the same as peace. Familiarity is not the same as truth. The fire didn't come to punish you, it came to free you, to burn away what no longer fits, to make space for what can finally breathe. And if you look around, really look, you'll see others too, rebuilding beside you, quiet warriors rising from their own ashes. They won't ask for your story, but they'll recognize your strength. They'll nod in silent solidarity, and together you'll build not what was, but what could be, something more honest, something more whole. So gather what the fire left behind, gather your heart, gather your clarity, gather your knowing, lay it down piece by piece, speak life over it, build again, not as who you were, but as who you've become. The fire did not take everything. It left you the most important thing, yourself, and that is more than enough. Grace doesn't arrive wrapped in light. It doesn't descend like a dove in moments of ease. No, grace is grown in the rubble, in the mess, in the middle of the ache. It is not something handed to you by the world. It's something you dig for when everything else has been stripped away. You grow grace when all you have left is the choice to keep your heart soft in a world that keeps trying to harden it. It doesn't come naturally, not at first. When betrayal knocks the breath from your lungs, when disappointment comes dressed in the face of someone you trusted, when life doesn't keep its promises, grace is the last thing you feel. You want revenge, you want answers, you want the pain to make sense. But grace whispers, you don't have to carry all that. It's not weakness. It's not surrender. Grace is fierce. Grace is what allows you to look at what hurt you and say, I will not let this change who I am. That takes courage. That takes strength. That takes the kind of quiet power that grows in the shadows, not the spotlight. When the world tells you to harden, to shut down, to strike back, grace invites you to soften, not for them, but for you, so you don't lose yourself trying to survive what happened. Grace is grown each time you forgive without forgetting who you are. Each time you speak gently when all you want to do is scream. Each time you choose to stay kind in a conversation that wants to turn cruel. It's grown when you walk away, not because you're weak, but because you finally understand your worth. When you choose peace over power, dignity over dominance, stillness over chaos. But growing grace doesn't mean tolerating harm. It doesn't mean letting people hurt you in the name of being good. It means learning to separate your pain from your purpose, to recognize that what broke you doesn't get to define you. Grace is grown when you stop waiting for an apology that may never come and still decide to live free. It's not about forgetting. It's about remembering differently, not through the lens of bitterness, but through the lens of wisdom. Grace gives you the space to look back and see not just the hurt, but the healing. Not just the fall, but the rising. Not just the betrayal, but the boundaries you finally learned to build because of it. Grace is not grown in comfort. It's born in the wreckage, when the plan falls apart, when the relationship ends, when the dream crumbles, when all the scaffolding you leaned on is gone and you have no choice but to stand in your own truth. That's where grace begins to bloom, in the places where strength alone can't carry you, but softness can. There will be days you don't feel graceful, days you snap, days you fall apart, days you want to scream at the sky and ask, why me? And still you rise, and still you choose love. That is grace, not perfection, but presence. Not always being kind, but returning to kindness again and again. Grace forgives the part of you that was only trying to survive. It teaches you to offer to yourself what the world forgot to give: patience, understanding, space. It reminds you that growth is not linear, that you're allowed to stumble, to regress, to get it wrong, and still you are worthy, still you are whole, still you are healing. You don't have to wait for someone to make it right. You don't have to wait for the timing to be perfect. You don't need the validation of others to extend grace to yourself. You grow it in silence. You grow it when no one sees. You grow it by choosing to believe that even now, even here, there is something in you that cannot be ruined. And as grace grows, so does your power. The power to walk away without burning the bridge. The power to speak your truth without silencing someone else's. The power to leave with your head held high, even if your heart is broken. The power to choose joy, not because everything is right, but because you decided you won't let darkness win. Grace isn't given, it isn't easy, it isn't passive. It is an act of defiance, a rebellion against bitterness, a declaration that what happened to you will not take root in you. You grow it with every choice to love yourself through the wreckage. And from that soil, ruined, scorched, forgotten, you bloom anyway. That is grace, and it's yours. Storms don't come to leave you the same. They arrive like uninvited guests, tearing through the plans you held tightly, disrupting the certainty you built around your life. They don't knock politely, they break, they shake, they strip, but every storm carries within it a sacred invitation. Become the person it was meant to shape. The storm may not be your choice, but who you become through it is. Life will throw winds strong enough to bend your will, rains heavy enough to cloud your vision. You will lose things, people, plans, pieces of yourself. But even in the loudest chaos, you are being called deeper into your becoming. This isn't about putting a smile on your pain. It's not about pretending the lightning doesn't scare you. It's about staying with yourself when the skies darken. It's about learning how to breathe in the middle of the unknown. When everything you thought you needed is taken from your grip, when the world you trusted falls apart, that's when the rebuilding begins. And not of what was, but of who you are now meant to be. Storms test everything. Your boundaries, your beliefs, your inner truth. They break apart the weak scaffolding you built out of fear or habit. They take down what was never strong enough to stand. And though that loss may hurt, though it may feel like the storm has come to destroy you, it's often only destroying what can no longer carry you forward. You become someone new, not overnight, not without cost, but over time and through fire. Slowly, you learn to stand in the storm without begging for shelter. You learn that your strength doesn't lie in escaping it, but in walking through it and remaining intact. And not just intact, transformed. Every storm brings you closer to the core of who you are. The person who can sit in the silence and listen to the wisdom that pain reveals. The person who knows that peace is not found in the absence of storms, but in the ability to stay grounded through them. The person who lets go of needing control and learns to trust their own resilience. You become the person who no longer chases what abandons them, who no longer begs for what isn't aligned. You stop performing for love and start protecting your peace. You stop clinging to old identities and begin honoring your growth. Storms don't just tear down, they teach. They teach what matters. They teach who matters. And more than anything, they teach you to matter, to yourself. Storms bring you to your knees, not to punish you, but to ground you, to make you look within, to teach you to hold yourself, not with judgment, but with compassion. And somewhere in the wreckage of what you thought your life would be, you begin to rise, not with the same steps, but with deeper ones. Not with old eyes, but with clearer vision. You learn not to fear the breaking, but to bless it, because without it, you never would have discovered this depth, this voice, this power. You wouldn't have known what it means to fight for your healing, to choose yourself even when it's hard, to love from a place that no longer needs to be saved. The storm was never just about loss, it was always about becoming. And now, standing in the aftermath, you are not the same. You are more anchored, more intentional, more honest about what you need and what you will no longer accept. You don't rise to impress, you rise to be whole. The person you were before the storm might have needed validation, might have depended on the approval of others to feel seen. But the person you are now, the one the storm shaped, doesn't beg to be chosen. They choose themselves. They walk with purpose. They speak with clarity. They know their worth because they earned it inch by inch in the dark. Let that version of you lead now. Let her speak. Let her move. Let her breathe. She is the proof that storms don't end you. They reveal you. And in the revealing, you become someone even more rooted, even more true, even more you. So don't just survive your storm. Become from it. Let the wind sculpt your soul. Let the rain wash away what no longer fits. Let the thunder remind you of your voice. The world may see the damage, but you will feel the design. You were always meant to be shaped, not by comfort, but by truth. And now you are becoming her, the one who didn't just weather the storm, but grew wings in it. So when life asks, what will you do with the ruins? Stand up, speak softly to your soul, and say, watch me build a cathedral from this dust, because you, dear heart, were never meant to stay broken. You were made to rise, bolder, softer, and more sacred than before. Rebuild yourself, and this time, build it with truth, with grace, with fire.